Welcome back to the second edition of the Norse Code. I'm Mike Lund. Here we are on Stott Community Field where a lot of the Portland State Viking teams practice. In a few minutes we're going to go right over there to the Stott Center. The men's basketball team is getting ready for their practice this afternoon. We're going to talk to head coach Tyler Gerving. But right now we're going to take a look at some news nuggets in Portland State athletics. Just a few things we would like to tell you about. First of all, Portland State Wine and Roses is scheduled for May 29th this spring. So go to govikes.com, get information about the Wine and Roses event. It's a great night, dinner, auction, all benefits Portland State athletics. Also, we would like to welcome back Tig Howland. Tig was recently named the Associate Athletic Director for Development at Portland State, and Tig has worked in the athletic program for almost 3 years. You may also know that he was a quarterback on the Viking football team. He's been at Portland State for almost a decade now, and we're excited to have him back on staff. Now let's take a look at our sports this week. First off, softball was on the road last weekend playing in Las Vegas. They went 2-3 on the weekend. They're 4-6 on the season. The Viking softball team won games over Utah Valley and Boise State, scoring 20 runs in those two victories. A few highlights. Jenna Stanford had a 3-run homer against Utah Valley, and that was her first Portland State career hit, so congratulations to Jenna. Also, Kristen Crawford pitched a complete game shutout over Utah Valley. She's 3-2 this season. The Vikings have this weekend off. You can take a look right now. They're right over here getting ready for practice this afternoon, warming up. But they do have this weekend off, and they will play in a few more tournaments leading up to next month's home opener. It will be a Big Sky Conference doubleheader against Southern Utah. That's March 21st at the Gordon Faber Sports Complex out in Hillsboro, a new home this year for Portland State softball. The Portland State track and field teams wrapped up their indoor regular season last weekend at the Husky Classic in Seattle. And the Vikings now turn their attention to the Big Sky Conference Championship, which takes place next week in Flagstaff. And what you need to know about the Vikings, they have 17 qualifying marks for that Big Sky Indoor Championship, including 2 each from Jasmine Ratcliffe, Jenna Settle, Jasmine Woods, and Sheldon Prince. The women's tennis team pushed reigning Big Sky regular season champion Montana to the brink last weekend in a dual match. They did lose 5-2 ultimately, but have played very well this season. The women's tennis team is 4-3 overall. Tracy Dong has the best dual match record so far this year at 6-1. The Vikings' next home match is this Sunday against Big Sky favorite Sacramento State. That match begins at 10 a.m. at Club Green Meadows in Vancouver. Admission is free. Come on out and watch the Vikings. The men's tennis team lost a pair of home matches last week, a real close one to Montana State, 4-3, and also lost 7-0 to the University of Portland. The Viking men are currently 2-4 on the season in dual matches. Ethan Lopez, Matt Pronesti, each 3-3 on their dual marks this season, the best records on that team. And the Vikings back in action on Saturday against Montana, a 2 p.m. match at Club Green Meadows, also free. That's in Vancouver. Come on out if you get the chance. The Portland State women's golf team opened its spring season last week playing at the Gold Rush in Long Beach. The Vikings placed 10th in that tournament. Aram Choi shot a final round 72, and she was 14th individually for the Vikings. Next week, Portland State travels to the Julie Inkster Spartan Invitational. That takes place in San Jose. In women's basketball, the Viking women dropped 2 games last week to Idaho and first place Eastern Washington. The women will now go on the road for a 3-game trip before finishing the season at home on March 5th and 7th. A few highlights there for the women. Junior Emily Eason continues her scoring surge. She's averaging 14 points a game. She's moving up the all-time three-point shooting list. She now has 127 in her career. That's 5th most all-time on the women's three-point shooting list. Michaela Rivard, 22 points last Saturday against Eastern Washington. Those are your team updates, and in just a moment, we're going to go over to the Stott Center and talk men's basketball with Tyler Gerving. Portland State men's basketball team is at home this week. North Dakota on Thursday night, Northern Colorado Saturday night. Both games begin at 7:05 p.m. right here in the Stotts Center. We're going to talk a little men's basketball right now with head coach Tyler Gerving. And the first thing we have to ask, Coach, is about the great win at Eastern Washington on Saturday afternoon. Knocked off the first-place team in the Big Sky, their first home loss of the season. What went into getting that victory?
A lot of preparation, obviously, and I think having lost our previous two games on the road, at Sac State, who was in first, and we had a chance to win it at the end of the game, and losing a tough one at Idaho, I think kind of the theme going into that game is let's get rid of our negative thoughts and let's be positive, and things are going to go bad, and when they do go bad, we got to go back to our positive thoughts. And as corny as that sounds, that was kind of our theme Friday, and our theme on Saturday is put our guys in a good frame of mind, and there's going to be ups and downs not only in that game but the rest of the year. But the more positive we can stay, the more we can stick together. It'll hopefully result in a win, and fortunately for us, it did, and obviously a big momentum, hopefully a big momentum swing in the season for us as we come home for 3 games.
Okay, I'm going to ask you now, is coaching a science or an art? And I'm going to refer to the fact that 4 games ago you put Chebe Bamba on the bench. He comes in now as the 6th man. You move Colin Spickerman into the starting lineup. Spickerman has flourished. He had 7 block shots in 2 games last week. Bamba has flourished. He's actually played the most minutes of anyone during that span and has played extremely well. So how do you figure all that out when you make a move like that? And this one has definitely worked out.
No, it has. I think more than anything, I don't think it really matters who starts or who doesn't start. In fact, in the second half, we didn't start Braxton Tucker against Eastern. We went with Bamba and Spickerman. Bottom line is those 3 guys are going to play. They're going to play a lot of minutes. Just kind of try and rotate them, and whoever has the hot hand or whoever has a good defensive assignment, staying out of foul trouble, kind of so forth and so on. We just kind of play it game by game. But, we definitely have a luxury with those 3 guys. Colin's a great defender. Bamba can defend and can score, and obviously Braxton's doing a great job of scoring. So when you got 3 guys like that for 2 positions, it makes our job a lot easier as coaches.
Okay, let's talk now about consistency, or maybe lack of it at times. Last 16 games, the Vikings are 8-8 and haven't won more than 2 in a row at any point, haven't lost more than 2 in a row. It's really been up and down. What are you trying to do to get that thing on an up and keep it up there?
Yeah. Nah, if I knew the answer to that, we'd have a few more wins. And it's been frustrating for the players and for the coaches. As we feel like we have a good team, and you're right, we just haven't been able to string it together for more than a couple games. Other than at the start of the season, we reeled off 4 in a row, and we kind of need to get back to that a little bit and playing consistent on a night in basis. And I think what really helps that is when we share the basketball, when we play as a team on the offensive end, I think we're a better team. I think there's times where we've been a little bit selfish, or we're kind of out for our own stats, and when we do that, we're not very good. And if we can kind of get to sharing the ball, playing for one another, caring about your teammates, having the positive thoughts, like we talked about going to the Eastern game, then I think we can, have the capability of going on a roll here at the end of the year.
Okay, now let me ask you about a couple of senior guards who played very well for you this year. Gary Winston, 4th year in the program. He needs 8 more points to get to 1,000. That's a big milestone in college basketball for a player to get to 1,000 career points. Gary's almost there. Deshaun Wiggins, recently featured at collegeinsider.com as one of the top mid-major players in the country. Deshaun leading the Vikings in scoring this year. What have those 2 seniors meant to your team?
Well, Gary, a lot. I mean, here's a kid that's, like you talked about, it's been in the program for 4 years. We haven't had a lot of kids that have, gone through the program for 4 years. To score 1,000 points is huge. Was 2nd team All-League last year. I would think he's got the potential to be an All-League player again this year. Here's a kid that works, on his game a lot, gets in the gym a lot, shoots before and after practice, and it's nice to see the hard work kind of pay off. And, he's been a part of, successful teams over here, even a couple of years ago when we had the rough year. I think that was, Gary's, got the mentality of, hey, we're not going to let that happen again. And, he kind of went through that tough season. But 3 out of his 4 years, we've had a lot of success, and he's been a big reason for it. And Deshaun, I mean, his 2nd year, he was 6th man of the year last year, leading scorer last year, leading scorer again this year. When you got two senior guards like that can score the basketball at any time, that can shoot the basketball. Deshaun's shooting it at a higher clip this year, I believe, from the three-point line. So we're getting good production out of those guys. We need those two guys to be consistent as well down the stretch. I think if those two guys play consistent, then I think we'll get more consistent as a team.
Okay, let's talk about this week now. We're home for 3 straight games. North Dakota Thursday night. You've got Northern Colorado Saturday. Sacramento State at home next week. 5 games remaining in the schedule. What do you have to do? What does this team need to do to be on an upswing getting into the Big Sky tournament and get better positioning getting into the Big Sky tournament?
Yeah, play for each other. I think that's kind of the theme down the stretch, is that it shouldn't matter who gets the points, who gets the rebounds, who gets the assist. At the end of the day, the only thing that really matters is that we win, and I think we've got to continue to buy into that as a team, play for one another. And I think also defensively, I thought we did a great job at Eastern. That was probably our best defensive performance of the year, holding them to 38%, team that was leading the league in scoring, and we did a good job of neutralizing them. I don't think we shut them down, but we did a good job of kind of controlling them a little bit. So if we can be consistent on the defensive end, consistent on the offensive end, play for one another, and then I think we have a chance down the stretch.
All right, well, that's head coach Tyler Gerving, and we again remind you, Portland State basketball at home this week, Thursday and Saturday. You can hear more from Coach Gerving if you listen to Rip City Radio, 6:20 a.m. He's on Monday afternoons with Brian Wheeler. Also go to blogtalkradio.com/Tyler Gerving Show. He's on every Wednesday night from 10:30 to 11, and that is podcast. So if you want to listen to it on Thursday morning, you can do that as well. You can hear more from Coach Gerving. Once again, we thank you, and we thank you for watching the Norse Code. We remind you, go to govikes.com, get all the information on all the teams. You can see the live video, hear the live audio, and the live